Good morning. It's Friday, January 19, 2024. And I'm here with Doug to talk about the Rabbit R1 and other things.
Ooh.
But first, he's got PC sales. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. And I hope I got the stat on this right. But PC sales have just plummeted this past year.
Well, I've been
And
hearing this for years that those desktop things have been falling, but and everything
yeah, so
towards
so
tablets and foldouts and everything.
yeah, so what's really interesting is that PC levels or PC sales today are at 2006 levels.
Does this
So
also apply to Macs?
I believe so, but I'm not certain on that. And the rationale or the reasoning behind this is that a lot of people bought new computers during COVID, and so nobody needs a new computer right now. And companies are pushing off the refreshes, and so that's also driving sales down.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. I mean, I've got an M1 Mac and it's really nice, but I didn't
Yeah,
bother with the M2. And I think I heard that the M3 isn't really that good. So I'm waiting for something significantly better, maybe the M4.
yeah, yeah. So the only thing that might be driving PC sales are AI chips.
If they,
So
then yeah, they're talking about Microsoft. I think Microsoft said their new computers are going to be designed for AI and all have 16 gigs of RAM and a special coprocessor and stuff.
yeah, but here's the thing, if you have a computer, it's an easy add-in, except for a laptop, or maybe they've got something that'll plug into a bus
Yeah,
on a laptop.
but I think it makes sense. I mean, just like a new version of Windows, nobody cares unless it actually has some new feature that is really great.
Exactly, and I don't think we have that new feature yet,
It
but
will
if you're
clearly
buying
be
it,
machine learning. AI is
yeah,
clearly going to be the new feature.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Microsoft is pushing it like mad in Windows 11. And I'm reading rumors about Windows 12. You know, covering the thing with AI assistance everywhere is definitely nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, what do you got? So
Well,
those are
I've
PC
got
sales.
exactly the on this target. That's the Rabbit. The Rabbit is the new device intending to be the revolutionary step forward. And I think it's the CEO of Microsoft that said this is the all important step forward. This is as important as when the iPhone came out. uh, and there's a demo at I think the Consumer Electronics Show or some recent event, and it's a thing about half the size of a smartphone, and it only costs $200, and it has Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, 4G, and a camera and a microphone and an on-screen keyboard and a little screen. And what you do his idea, which is pretty revolutionary. He said, right now you have the smartphone. And the problem with the smartphone is if you want to do anything, you have to scroll through all the apps, find the app you want, open the app, log in, figure out how to do things in the app, which is different for every app. And he said, this is not the future we wanted. I want it to just tell it. So this thing learns how to use your apps. It knows how to use common apps, it knows how the menus are and everything, and you can train it by just showing it. Here's how you use Midjourney to generate an image. Watch me, it'll learn. You show it once, it learns, and now you can give it a command like, I'm want to travel to London between January 1 and 15. Find the best flights, book the tickets, find a hotel, find events for us to do, plan a vacation for us with my family like this, make an itinerary, buy all the tickets, reserve the restaurants, and do all that for me. And it will open all the apps and do all that stuff, and then just present you with confirmation pages. He's invented a new model, a new AI model, which is not a large language model, it's a large action model which learns how to do things based on language input. And so
Hmm.
this is the idea. Now, and this is what, now I'd wait my whole life for Captain Kirk's computer from 1965. He just says, computer, tell me about that planet. Is it safe down there? What's it like? And it just figures this out and tells you. It doesn't like make you open an app and scroll through a menu or type in anything. And that's what this thing is.
So I just sent you a link if you want to
Yeah.
open that up and we can share it with people.
Okay. Yeah, the Rabbit
And
R1. That's it. Yeah,
yep.
that's it. And so
So it's
if this
not a
thing really
phone.
works, yeah. this might be the next really big thing, right? The next way we deal with computers.
Yeah. So is it a phone?
It is a new piece of hardware, half the size of a phone that you,
But is it a phone?
it
Can
is
I
not a
call
phone.
you?
It is not intended to replace, oh, you can do calls. Yes. It can write
Oh,
emails,
okay.
but it's not intended to replace your phone yet. But it's intended to help you get things done. What it is basically is the new version of the smart speaker. Because as we all discovered, like Siri and Alexa aren't really as helpful as they should be.
Right. Yeah.
But this thing is much smarter and can actually do complex tasks involving multiple apps. So you don't have to find the app or open it or anything.
So could we say it's Alexa or Siri in a box?
Yeah, but also you can use visual. It takes visual input. It has a
Yeah.
camera, and so he
Yeah.
could point it
Okay.
at a picture, and it will figure out what's going on. Like he points it at the refrigerator and says, "Look at this stuff and figure out how to make a nice low-calorie meal out of it." And he points it at a picture of Rick Astley, and it starts playing the Rick Astley song.
The Rickroll.
Yeah, so I mean it so you don't have to. It's not just voice input or text input.
Yeah.
You can get
Yeah.
input of any type, and it will deduce what you want by looking at the context and figure it out. So this is, close to like the science fiction intelligent robot servant that is like a human that's smart, like a butler that can figure out what you need and help you do what you want to do.
So I sent you the link. Let's open this up. Let's take a
Yeah,
look at this thing.
yeah, that's it. That's essentially the same thing I had, I think. Yeah.
No, you're going to do a screen share.
Oh, I can if you want.
That's, I thought so.
I don't know. See if I can get this particular window to go up. Let me try it. Let's see. Screen share. Okay. And now
So
there.
while you're doing that,
That looks pretty good. Yep. Okay, there it
yeah,
is.
there we go.
Yep. So that's the little thing. This thing's half the size of a smartphone, and it's got a
So
push
there's,
to talk button and a camera
ah,
and all kinds of other things. So you don't have to have a keyword or anything. You said that's a big deal. You don't have to say, "Hey Alexa," you push the button like a walkie-talkie. That does sound a lot friendlier.
yeah, yeah, no, that does.
And then you say, "Rabbit, do this stuff," and Rabbit says, "Okay, I'm working on it." And it's also designed to be super fast. The chat GBT and stuff takes several seconds to make an answer. This is designed to always create the answer within half a second.
Hmm.
So you know, it's very
And
impressive. But they made a run of 10,000 devices and they presented at CES and they hoped to sell 500. And instead, the whole 10,000 sold out the first day. So they made another run and that also sold out in the first day. So it is a huge hit. And they're going to start shipping them at Easter.
so 20,000 are out so far.
Right, at
Yeah.
$200 each. But
I'll tell you the price point.
yeah,
This is
very impressive.
very tempting. Yep.
And
Yep.
he said, here's how we figured out the price point. Smartphones cost like $1,000. Smart speakers cost like $600. So we said, well, we'll make it 200. That'll probably make a move. And boy, it made a move.
Yeah. Yeah. I see.
Because small, I guess there isn't that much fancy hardware in there, but they developed a new OS and a new AI model. It's got the Rabbit OS and it's got this, whatever this large action model is, which is so they put a lot of development into it, but I think they must have venture capitalists that bought their pitch and said this really does look like the greatest thing in the world. So we're going to see.
So this is the innovation from the Newton to the Palm Pilot
Yeah,
to the iPhone.
yeah,
This is the next step, and it's either going to fly or flop.
yeah. But I'm reminded of what I heard about Steve Jobs when he first proposed the iPhone. Everybody said, "Why would someone want to stare at this little screen and tap these little buttons? Nobody would want to do that." And he said, "You'll love it, but it seems unnatural and wrong." And I still feel that way. I don't love it. And this is getting away from that. What I liked was Captain Kirk's computer. Just talk to the computer like a human, and it's
Yeah.
intelligent like a human and does things for you like a servant. And the iPhone interface is sort of like squinty and unhealthy, and everyone's bent over, and it's not really a good interface. And this is addressing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
So I got a story for you.
yeah,
And maybe you've done a little bit of research on this, but you know that your browser is spying on you,
yeah,
meaning it's releasing PI. And I've got a couple other stories related to this,
yeah,
but it's pretty well documented that Microsoft as well as Apple are taking information that you're putting in, not specifically your searches per se. They're not taking content, if you will, but they are looking at what you're looking at in sites that you're visiting.
But I think Google is doing it much more.
Google is doing it much more, but Microsoft, we'll
Right.
get to, I'll bring up that story in a little bit,
Yeah.
but even more so.
Yeah.
And Microsoft and Chrome, or Microsoft's Edge, it
Right.
turns out that even if you,
Edge AI.
Edge
They
AI,
changed the
right?
name.
Yeah. Thank you. Got to keep up on this. So Edge AI, even if you close it, is still running in the background.
Yeah. Because it's
And
really
it's still,
automated. Yeah.
yep. And it's still collecting metrics on you as well as Chrome OS. But we'll talk about this a little bit more in detail.
Yeah. Now, is it doing
But
just with the old-fashioned stuff like tracking cookies, or is it doing more?
it's doing more.
Okay.
And I'll give you a couple of examples. But what's your next story?
Okay.
Let's move on.
My next one I thought was pretty interesting. So Cloudflare laid off people. And apparently, I didn't know this. When they lay off people now, they don't have you come in. They have you connect to a Zoom session where they bring in some guy who is not an employee of the company. There's this movie called Up in the Air where I think George Clooney plays this guy who just flies in to like fire your company employees because no one at your company has the heart to do it. And they're
Yeah.
actually doing this now. Some weird guy you never heard of fires you and gives you this speech. And this is so dystopian and sick that what people are doing is videotaping it and putting it on TikTok. Here's me getting fired by some idiot I never met. And she's complaining like, what is this? Where's my boss? Who are you anyway? Why did you just gave me a promotion last week? You said my performance was fine. Why don't you just move it to another division? Why can't I talk to somebody? What's going on here? And he just has like commercial robotic answers. And so now people are discussing whether this is like a brilliant way to fight back or this is a way to ruin your life to post these videos. But it sounds like a great thing to do. And
I
so,
will tell you, I went to a conference one time and there was a Microsoft VP there. And she was talking about one of the hardest things she had to do. And she had to fly over to Ireland, where Microsoft had a facility there, and lay off, I think, 2,000, 2,500 people.
man,
And it was in a town, I don't remember the town, that's not that important, but Microsoft employed a lot of people, brought a lot of prosperity there.
yeah,
And she could have gone in there and done it as a hatchet and just chopped everybody.
yeah.
But she brought everybody in, had a large meeting, and the way she presented it, people were at the end were thanking her, thanking Microsoft for the opportunity to have worked for them, and they understood that it came to an end. And it was kind of a parting of the ways where employees left with a lot of respect for Microsoft.
You know, I've heard that Meta does this. That
Yeah,
when they fire people, they do it intelligently and communicate with them and give them good severance and help them get another job and all that stuff. And people are really very grateful for that. But most people just treat you like dirt and throw you away. Like, remember the startups that would fire people by just locking the door. So when you show up, you can't get in. Or for that matter, Twitter. I knew a guy that worked at Twitter and he said,
yeah.
he was a driver and he said, I looked in my app and people were just vanishing from the app. And I called, hey, is something bad happening? They say, yes, something bad is happening. And you know, this is just appalling. And I've read stories from like the Harvard Business Journal and other prestigious business people have said this is not the thing to do. This makes your employees lose morale. It makes everybody know they're just going to get fired too, so they all slacking off on work and start looking for other jobs. If you need to save money, just cut their pay. They would tolerate that better than just suddenly
Yeah,
being out of a job. And the fact is, I watch it all the time. Like they had all the layoffs, and then 2 months later, they're hiring people back again. So this didn't do you any good. You already had people who had been ramped up. It's like 6 months to ramp up at a company before you learn how things work. So
yeah,
it makes no sense to just lay people off and then bring them back. It would make a lot more sense to just cut their pay
yeah,
temporarily
yeah.
and much healthier for them psychologically. A lot of people fall into depression, commit suicide, give up, become alcoholics when they get laid off. It really is not healthy for people. Whereas a pay cut is not that big a deal.
Yeah. It's a bruise rather than a stabbing, if you
Yeah,
will.
and it doesn't hit your self-worth. It's like, well, the company's like the
Yeah.
college cut our pay. The company's in trouble, so they cut our pay. None of us suddenly said, well, I'm no good. I can't live anymore. We just said, well, it kind of sucks, but that's not at all like I've lost my job. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'm going to have to move.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Anyway, um, all right.
All
So
right.
now you got
S-
more about Windows
Yeah,
spy.
so let's go back to this. I'm going to talk a lot on privacy and spying, if you will.
Yeah.
So it turns out that Windows applications are spying on you as well,
What, like Office and stuff?
like Office and Word. And let's also throw in there Outlook, but not Outlook desktop, Outlook on the web.
365.
Yeah, 365.
That
So
seems really
there's,
serious because that stuff is full of business stuff that's supposed to be
yep,
confidential.
yep. So again, they're not sending personal information, but it's more metadata, if you will.
Oh, well, this is like there used to be that app on the phones that would test performance and quality, and everybody freaked out saying your phone is spying on you until they started taking it off. But there's been like a traffic metering app on every phone to see if the signal is good and stuff.
Right. Yeah, but this is more, these are all metrics specifically for Microsoft to sell to data brokers.
Well, then they should have PII. Essentially, they should have demographic information so they know like what ads to pop up.
Well, we'll get to that. I've got
Okay.
another one for you on that
Okay,
one
because
too.
I
That's
mean,
another
I'd like
interesting
to know.
story.
So if I go and log into Office 365 and I write a company email, what kind of data is sent to Microsoft by that?
Well, we're not sure,
Yeah, okay.
but we know that they're collecting data.
Well, now to be fair, they have to collect some data just to run the network and the servers and stuff. So
No, let me be more
yeah,
specific. This is data about you specifically.
yeah. I mean, realistically, all they really should need to know is like how much CPU time I'm using or something like that.
Right, but this is more along the lines of who are you sending to? Who
Oh,
are your associates?
oh.
Not again, it's unclear exactly what they're collecting,
If they're
but
doing that, that's seriously concerning,
let
probably
me
illegal.
jump in. Let me jump into this.
Yeah,
So Microsoft, this is my last uh,
yeah.
uh, topic here,
Mhm.
but Microsoft in the past had made $10 billion off of collecting data information. This last year, they announced 20 billion.
You remember these ads where they said Google is spying on you, but we are not?
Well, it turns out that yes, Microsoft is spying on you, as is Google. And
Well,
ready for
Google
this?
has made it clear that they are spying on you all along, but
And who
Microsoft
else?
claimed to be different.
Right. Microsoft claimed to be different. And who else claimed to be different?
Well, I think Apple too.
Yeah, the Apple.
Yeah.
So we know that Apple made about $10 billion off of collecting data. Now, what's interesting is this is a story that's unfolding with the EU.
Yeah.
Doesn't really affect the US, but the EU, it looks like, will probably be a blanket or they're going to have to do something special for the EU. But
Yeah.
it has to do with selling your PI to third parties.
Yeah.
And what I've been told, I haven't verified this firsthand, but what I've been told is that Apple has something in there, if you're using Safari, that you've agreed that they can collect data on you and sell it to other parties, even though they don't explicitly tell you that.
Hmm.
Microsoft is doing the same thing. You can go into the security settings on AI Edge. Did I get that one right?
Mhm.
Yep, AI Edge. You can go in there, change some of the security settings. They will collect less, but they're still collecting data.
One other thing I heard for years, which I never found out about, is your ISP collecting data and selling it on you because they totally could. As far
And
as I
who did?
know, they
Yep.
haven't been caught doing that yet, but maybe.
No, ISPs have been doing that.
Yeah.
And there have been ISPs that claim that they store no logs. And the reason that they do that is because they get subpoenas from law enforcement.
Right.
And if a log is asked for, there is no log.
Right. Yeah.
And I will tell you, it's known that the cell phone companies are selling your data, your metadata, not your actual conversations to FBI or to law enforcement.
Yeah.
And that's been going on for a long time. And I've been told, again, I don't have firsthand knowledge, but we're talking sometimes 1,000 requests are being sent to Verizon, AT&T per week,
Yeah.
where they're making a nice hefty profit off of all this.
Yeah. I know it's that way for Google. I mean, this all came out in
Yep.
2010. Google gets all
Yep.
these law enforcement requests. Um,
Yeah.
and that's legal, I think, as long as they have search warrants or court orders or
No,
something.
there's no search warrant required because they're not getting the actual data.
Oh,
They're
okay.
getting the metadata.
Right. It's like the pen register. Yeah. But
Yep.
yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's this is why Europe is helping so much. You know, America has essentially no privacy laws, but Europe now has strict ones, and they're the ones doing the investigation and forcing people into admitting what they're doing.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so we're going to
Yeah.
learn more as the European government moves forward.
Yeah. And again, in the spotlight right now is Microsoft, Google, and Apple.
Well,
And
sure.
we'll see how
Plus,
that's
the
going.
Europe, the Google laws specifically said the big tech providers have to be more careful, and they set the limit. So the big ones, those are the big ones,
Yeah. Yeah.
which makes
So,
sense, really. Rather than
yeah.
burden all the little ones with burdensome regulation, they really want to go after the big ones.
Yeah. So I got a quick question for you. I've not fact checked this, but has Microsoft eclipsed Apple in worth?
I think I read that they briefly had more worth than Apple like last week. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Apple used to be the number one richest company, and Microsoft actually pegged ahead. Like I say, I think Microsoft is sitting pretty, especially with their leading position in AI. Microsoft is doing very well.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
And
see. We'll
Apple, by
see.
the way, I think is
Yeah.
stumbling. I mean, iPhone sales are going down, and I think Apple doesn't actually have a revolutionary, exciting new product to keep people going. They've been kind of coasting. So I think Microsoft is eating their lunch.
Yeah. So Apple, right? All they're doing is they're not gaining customers. They're maintaining existing customer base.
Yeah, but they in tech, you need to have some exciting new thing every few years. And it's
Right.
going to be
Right.
quite a few years since Apple, like the MacBook Air was really cool, but that's getting,
Yeah.
what, 10 years ago? What has Apple
Yeah.
done for
Yeah.
us lately?
Yeah. 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 So Samsung just came out with a new phone.
Oh,
And they had a product announcement, I think it was earlier this week. And I listened to part of the keynote speech. And I got to tell you, listening to keynote speeches over the years, it could have been the same words that were recycled from probably 20, 25 years ago.
yeah, does the new phone do anything cool?
Yes, it's revolutionary.
They always
It's
say
going to
that, and then it
cost
turns out
less.
the camera now has 6 megapixels instead of 4 or something.
Yes, but these are features that customers are going to want. It's
Well,
going to reduce cost. It's going to make you more productive.
yeah, remember Bill Gates saying we finally solved all security problems with the new revolutionary Windows 98. You know, there's a special place in hell for marketing people. I guess they call it the White House. Anyway, so I got a
All
few
right.
more. I got a few more short ones here. Like I saw quantum computing is going to make a cybersecurity Armageddon, and I nearly ignored it. And then it's the IBM executives. So IBM executives who would know say we're actually going to have quantum computers that work and trash encryption by the end of this decade, which is news to me. I've been telling people this is like maybe in 30 years and maybe never that quantum computers will actually be good enough to break RSA. But this IBM executive thinks it'll be by the end of the decade. Everyone's guessing, but he's a more informed guess than me. So
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
be exciting because all the prototypes I've seen are interesting from a physics point of view, but completely pointless. Like I remember, at least as of like 2 years ago, they had cracked RSA encryption in the sense that they can successfully factor the number 35 into 5 times 7. That's the only one they can actually do on the quantum computing hardware that currently exists. So they are miles away from cracking a 2048-bit RSA key. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. There might be a big leap coming out here, or like with self driving cars, it might kind of fizz out here.
Yeah, and so somebody took George Carlin videos and they made an AI George Carlin and made an AI George Carlin routine, and people say it is horrible. It is worse than you can possibly imagine. It is flat and boring, and it defames and sullies the memory of George Carlin, which sounds true. I mean, if you could do it right, it would be great, but this is just appalling, apparently, just like you
Yeah.
would think.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. All right. You got another story for us.
I got one more, which gets where you're going.
Okay.
There's a thing on Consumer Reports took people and had them ask Facebook for all the data Facebook had on them, and then they sent it up and analyzed them like hundreds of people. And they found out that not only is your browser and your app spying on you, like you were saying, but the servers are sending data directly to the other servers. And I don't quite understand how that works, but they claim that each Facebook user is monitored by thousands of companies. All these other companies send data to Facebook about what you're doing on that company from the servers, so no browser setting can fix it.
So,
And
so which, wait, so if I go in, say, to a website,
yeah,
pick some, I go to Sam's website,
yeah,
or, but let's say it's a commercial website.
yeah, yeah.
So what you're saying is that other servers are monitoring and feeding data back to Facebook.
Yes, they say the average each on the
Yep.
average, each participant had their data sent to Facebook by 2,230 companies. So I guess you must have somehow told that company your Facebook login by logging in with Facebook or something. Somehow they must have known that you're associated with a Facebook account, but then they send
Cookie.
it. And but apparently directly from the server, not just from your browser. So I wasn't
I
entirely
see.
clear technically what's going on here. And it sounds hard to stop. But again, I think the European privacy regulations. This is hopefully they will be doing something about all this.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
American privacy regulations are hopeless. But when you look into it, it's much worse than you would imagine.
So, Sam, have you been seeing all these ads for Chrome? Get Chrome,
Oh
load
no,
Chrome, use Chrome. So if
no.
you go on, if you go into YouTube, I'm getting ads that are encouraging you to use Chrome.
Well, yeah, I quit using YouTube because they wouldn't let me block the ads anymore, and the ads were really annoying.
Oh, the ads are incredibly annoying now.
Yeah.
So here's the deal that's going on. We're putting AI into your browser for ads.
Well,
So so as you visit a website, your content, your PI is shared, and your that visit to that website is now put up for auction,
well,
so that as you visit the website, your the companies are bidding for your ad to place an ad on your webpage. Sounds
yeah,
like
but
you have more.
yes, because Steve Gibson just had a podcast about this. This is the
Oh, you did?
privacy sandbox. And the point is, it's different. The old system is the one you're describing. They send your PI up to some servers where people bid on it. The new one, your PI stays on your computer. It's not sent to anybody. The ad requests come in, and your browser is a server performing the ad auction. So people come in and say,
Yep.
these five people want to show you an ad. Which one are you going to take? And your browser chooses, but that way your PII never leaves. So it's arguably better. But it does mean that your browser is now an auctioneer, choosing which
Yeah.
ads. And it says,
Yeah.
here's possible ads. Which one of these ads fits the demographic of this viewer better? And your browser makes that decision without sending it back. It reminds me of the future of homomorphic encryption, which is awesome. Right now, if you have Kaiser has your whole medical history, and somebody just logs in and they can see everything. With homomorphic encryption, you could send a query up to the database that says, I want to know if this person has received this vaccine, and it gets just that answer without any additional data.
So Apple worked on something like that for driver's license. So if you go to a bar, you
Yeah.
can show your phone that has your driver's license, and the bouncer can verify that you're over 21, I
Right.
think with a picture and in not the date of birth, but a confirmation that you are over 21. And no other information is shared or
That's right. And
shown.
this is what we
Yeah.
should have. In the
Yeah.
realm of privacy, you should be able to have data, and then you should be able to have queries that get only the necessary information. And that's what this privacy sandbox does. All the advertiser wants to know is, should I put the ad in this browser or not? They don't really need to know anything more about you. Is this customer likely to buy my product? That's all I want to hear.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's all they get. Instead
So
of getting a whole bunch of stuff that's really none of their business, like your location and your age and your job and stuff.
right. So during COVID, where I was working, there was an app that we would have to show to go into any public building.
Right.
And
Got the idea. COVID test card. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it wasn't a COVID, it was not only a COVID test card or vaccination card, but it also showed
Whether
either
you've been
green, yellow, red.
right, whether you've been exposed. Yeah.
Yeah. And whether if I'm in the neighborhood or
Right.
vicinity of somebody that's been exposed.
Supposedly that actually worked in like some Asian countries where they really enforced everybody using it, but it never worked in America because they didn't really force everybody to use it, so therefore it wasn't working.
Yeah. So where I was, it was definitely enforced. And the person that I was working with, when they came into country, their app didn't flip over. And so they were quarantined while they were fixing the computer backend deal for an additional couple days.
Well, I mean, that's of course the dark side. I mean, it reminds me of
Right.
like Windows Vista, where Microsoft activation server went down for 3 days, so a whole bunch of perfectly legal copies quit working. And Microsoft was so embarrassed that they took out the punishment for not being activated and they never put it back yet. So you can run Windows without activating it because they
Yeah.
never had the guts to turn back on the enforcement.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's funny. I go into hotels in the elevator and I'll see activate Windows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I see the blue screen of death and the BIOS screen all around and stuff. Yeah. It's
yeah.
a brave new world we live in. And soon that's why I want to see that rabbit. I want to see the Rabbit OS and find out what's under there. Is it just Linux or did they actually really write a whole new OS? If I was running the
Any,
company,
yeah. Any ideas? What do you think?
well, I've said this for many years to my students. If I was running a company and my employees said we're going to write an operating system, I would just fire them. Just shut up. Whatever the hell you're doing, you can do it with Linux or Windows.
Yeah.
How can you
Yeah.
possibly be, unless you're building like a jet airplane, how can you possibly need something that isn't either Linux or Windows?
Yeah.
I
So
hope that they
say,
didn't really write their own OS.
yeah. So it sounds like you're going to buy one for sure.
Well, I don't know, but it's looking pretty
Okay.
inevitable. What I would like to do is run it in a virtual machine and analyze it. I don't actually
Yeah.
care about using it. I just want to know how it works and I want to know how to hack it. I would like to run it in a VM and then find the vulnerabilities and hack it. I really don't need anybody to book my travel for me or anything. I live a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
simple life. I have a dumb car, I have a dumb
Yeah.
everything. I don't really need AI help for anything.
Well, the problem with AI help is I asked for a restaurant and it's not a restaurant I would want to go to.
Well, I suppose you could give it more details about what you like and it might find it. I mean, if I don't have a servant to do things for me either. I guess the point is it's getting up to like a servant. If you were like an old British nobleman and you had like a butler and a chambermaid and everything, and you're just used to servants doing stuff for you.
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll sell like crazy, but
If $200, I'm sure it will.
yeah, but not to me. I don't have a smart
Okay.
speaker either. I just haven't seen any need for any of these things. But I think they do offer a new bit of luxury in life for people who care about it.
All right. You
Yeah.
got any more stories? I'm done
Uh,
for this session.
yeah, I think I'm done too. All right.
You're done too.
So
All
that's
right.
ended. We'll have another one on
We'll
Tuesday.
resume on Tuesday. You
That's
got it.
okay. Me